What's up, everybody? Giancarlo and Sublet here with Three Swords Productions. We have another Gundam deck profile. Sublet, um, we've talked about this privately about how much we like the green-white Operation Meteor deck, but we were struggling with the aggro decks. So I think you have kind of figured out a few ways to fix that problem through deck building. That's what we're here to. What are some of your initial thoughts about the green white deck and why we're doing this profile of anti aggro?
Right, so the green white deck has what I really like in card games, which is a giant top end. I love spending energy and playing huge bombs, and the green white deck has that. The That's of course the green half of it. The white half is the thing that's really good against aggro if you see it, because it's just a bunch of blockers, and aggro just kind of can't handle too many blockers. Like if you play Lift back to back, your opponent is not going to have a good time unless they have exactly Amuro and Grandpa, which they have it kind of thing. So
They have it
when
sometimes.
it comes, they do, they really do. But then there are times where you have like your duo and your dread scythe to answer their cash turn, which is pretty nice. So kind of just is a card game at that point. But what I really like about the green white deck is that it can kind of play a very long game and just out resource your opponent, out grind them. This is kind of what we have for a control deck that's not super boring blue white. So
Yeah, I agree. It's a little more dynamic. It's a little cooler. And I'm going to say something that sounds really stupid, but I don't know the blue-white characters. I never watched Gundam Unicorn. I never watched Gundam Seed, but I did watch Gundam Wing, so I'm way more drawn to the green-white deck. Now, of course, that's pretty irrelevant to what we would actually play in the meta, but in set one meta, I get the choice. So I'm going to choose the one that I saw the show of, you know?
yeah, interestingly enough, I've only ever watched one Gundam series, and it was Wing. So these are
Probably
the only
not.
characters I know anything about.
Yeah, exactly. Now, one thing I'll say before we get into the deck profile, ramp decks, me and you got a pretty good card game history with ramp decks. I mean, you can name any card game that we've played that has a ramp mechanic, and I think me and you have played the ramp deck in that card game. And this is just another ramp game and another card game, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, you've got like Druid in general in Hearthstone. You've
Hmm.
got Objection in Dragon Ball, which we both love. And then in this game, you've got your ramps like the Wing Gundam and the Dread Scythe. Something just feels great about spending 8 energy on something when my opponent has 4. You know, I don't know what it is. It's
It
fair,
feels
completely fair.
it feels good, and we'll get into it. You did forget the set one Gohan in Fusion World, but who cares? Well, let's get into it.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
what game did you just say? This is a
Yeah,
real game.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
All right, so I'm not really sure the best way to go about a deck profile in Gundam because I think the pilots are so very important. You already know it's green white, so I think I will start with the pilots and then we'll kind of go through the other stuff. And so there's kind of the standard ones, which is Hero. Hero is just a lot of stats, right? This boy is a lot of stats and he pairs with many of the cards that are in your deck, so he presents a potential lethal at later stages in the game. And in early stages, you can turn something like a bird mode into what's it, like a 5-4 or something like that. Like big stats, big numbers that your opponent might have trouble answering. Or in the later game, you can put him on your wing and swing on an active mode card and kill their base. So you kill a base and you kill a threat your opponent just played, and now you're so far ahead. You're a 7/7 when you do that. This card's just really powerful. He's probably the best green pilot that we have. And then
Turn
you
them
have two.
turn them the other way.
Oh,
There we go. Thank you.
yeah, it's fair. That's fair. 4 heroes. We have 2 duos. Duo sucks. Honestly, his
Oh,
skill
hot
is
take.
it's not a hot take. His skill's fine, but it's a during link skill, and that's not the most amazing thing in the world as a result of that. Now you'll notice that the hero doesn't say during link here. That's because these are the beta heroes. They decided, I guess, to
Mm.
nerf him or whatever. Heroes also during link. So Hero gives +2/+1, Duo gives +1/+2, but Hero matches with more things. That's why we want to play more of him. Duo in this deck is only going to match with the Dread Scythe, and he giving that protection against attack reduction is okay, but it's not really the most important thing in the world, honestly. What
Mhm.
I like Duo for, aside from the fact that he pairs with the Dread Scythe, is he gives +2 health. Um,
Yeah. Now,
when
one
you're
thing
playing against,
sorry to interrupt, my bad, bro. But I guess I was going to
oh,
ask a question. One thing we've noticed is green is a little too slow on its own to compete with the aggro decks, whether it's red, blue, blue, green, or Xeon, whatever. If you're playing, like, if you're focusing only on the green strategy, it kind of feels like you get overrun. So what we were thinking, I know when we were discussing it, is that Death Sight's a little slow, and in a slower matchup, that's fine, but in an aggro matchup, that is not fine. So do you feel like cutting down on duo? Is that just because you think aggro is the meta right now and you're making like a meta call?
I think that a well-rounded Gundam deck, I almost said Dragon Ball, a well-rounded Gundam deck has 8 pilots in it.
Hmm.
And to maintain that, and because I'm playing a few extra command cards to synergize with some of the cards in my deck,
Hmm.
I am keeping my deck count to 8 pilots. So we're going to have 2 duo and 2 of another pilot that I'll talk about here in a minute to round out that 8. And I feel like a 2-2 split is better than doing a 3-1. Because if you play a 1 of in this game, you're probably just not going to see it consistently enough. There's not enough draw power. So
Okay.
what I do like duo for is that +2 health. We are in an Amuro Ray meta. It's anything with 5 health just gets rested for no effort on your opponent's part. But if you put Duo on Ale Strike, it becomes a 6 health, and now you have a blocker that your opponent cannot rest. And so Duo on Ale Strike triggers Ale Strike's effect to bounce a card and keeps Ale Strike protected from an Amuro play, meaning that you can guarantee a block in most cases because of that +2 health instead of a +1. So that's why I like Duo, and that's why I like Saluda Mercury over the Kira. Kira is a cool card and all, but whenever I pair him with a blocker, I'd rather my blocker have 1 extra health than 1 extra attack in most cases. And so Saluda Mercury just has those stats that I care about, that 2 extra health instead of 2 extra attack. She also has an effect that's not dependent on whether she's linked or not, right? So when you attack, you untap an energy resource, whatever it's called in this game. You untap a resource, and that helps you get kind of far, especially with some defense cards that I'll show here in a minute. That 1 extra resource does matter in this deck pretty often. And the fact that it's not Kira means that your Ale Strike can't attack the turn you play it. But most of the time, I don't want to attack the turn I play my blocker. I'll
Yeah.
just equip this to bounce it and then leave my blocker up so that I can make a more favorable trade.
Yeah.
So
So, I
that's kind
mean,
of the idea behind the 2 health pilots.
yeah. And, with blocker, being able to block an attack it's not like attacking, but it kind of has a similar tactic. So, giving your blocker more health to player on Amuro, I think, is really clever. And giving it more health just to block more attacks is also pretty clever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of times too, I'll see you'll put a pilot on something just so you can trade with one of your opponent's cards. If I'm gonna put a pilot on one of my units, I'm looking to get at least 2 cards out of my opponent before that unit dies because I've put 2 cards into it. And that extra health helps me get to that second card from my opponent in many cases. So it's a card economy kind of thing. Green white is a card economy deck. This isn't an aggro deck where you just put everything on the table and have your opponent count their outs. This is a deck where it's all about card economy. It's all about value. The way you're going to win this game is by snowballing value throughout the course of the game. So you have to think about that in deck building, and you have to think about that when you're playing it. So,
I agree. All right. Pretty cool.
all right. So we've got our pilot lineup. We'll talk about the base real quick. Just like I think 8 pilots is the right number of pilots, I think 4 bases is the right number of bases. More than that, you kind of just end up flooding on bases, and the last thing you want to do is overwrite one of your bases with another one, just because it has a more favorable effect, because you end up kind of burning yourself with that. which
Hmm.
can hurt in this game a lot. So the four
Yeah.
bases that I play, it's just the underground desert base. It does nothing except have 6 health. Aggro decks push 5 pretty easily, but 6 is kind of a more difficult number. The Neon decks can get to 6 because Char will buff the guy. Amuro plus Grandpa gets to 6, but in a more simplified game state, which is where you're on only a couple cards, your opponent's on only a couple cards, this can buy you so much time. This can buy you 2 or 3 turns, and that matters a whole lot. So that's why we're
Yeah.
on the 6 health base. There's no real white or green base that has an effect that matters more than the extra health on the base
Yep. Yeah. I
because
will
aggro is so
say,
prevalent.
yeah, without like a pilot, six is a nuisance. Like that could very well take up to three attacks, which is huge. Now, even I think if a base takes two attacks, then you feel good about it. And if a base takes three attacks, then it's exceptional. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. And the thing about the base too is if your opponent has to put a pilot on their card to clear it, it really gives you value for your Dead Scythe duo if you have that combination as well.
Yep, definitely.
Yep. All right, so now let's talk about the white cards. So my blocker lineup, because they're the white cards, right? The white cards are always the blocker lineup. I tried to build this deck with the fact in mind that many times in tournaments, what we're seeing is that green white tends to be the most represented. So when I'm planning to go to a tournament and I'm planning to play 8 rounds, I am assuming that 4 or 5 of my rounds are actually going to be mirror matches, not necessarily aggro decks. So I have to be very careful with how geared towards the aggro matchup my deck is, because I can fall short in those more mirror matches or even the blue-white matches. So with that in mind, my blocker lineup tries to focus on kind of the best value I can get out of them without running too many and flooding on them. And Zwart is the best example of that. This card can't attack your opponent. It can only attack their cards, and it can only block their cards. So while it's a 2 cost 3/2, which is really, really good, undeniably really, really good, 2 health doesn't matter anymore because every deck that's aggro plays 6 to 8 of the 1 cost 2/2s. So it just trades into those regardless. You're going to let that attack go through and hope they play Rizel so you can actually get value out of this card. Or you draw these late game and they're meaningless because they have 2 health and the ping decks can kill it, and you're not going to be able to attack with it. So this just represents 0 threat to your opponent in other matchups. So I don't think Zwart is a 4 of. He's a 2 of because you really do need to see an early blocker, which is why he's there. He's supposed to act as additional potential copies of Lif. Lif is a 4 of. This card is just crazy. It's a level 3 2 cost 2/4 blocker. That's great. 4 health means that it can block 2 of those 1 cost 2/2s. 2 attack means that it loses to Rizel, which sucks, but that's why you have things like Zwart if you need it. Ultimately, though, this card is great. Any white deck is most likely going to be playing 4 of this card. Back-to-back lifts is enough to make your aggro opponent wish that they were not playing aggro. Then 2 of the Perfect Strike Gundam. So there are a couple arguments that you can make to play the slightly cheaper than this blocker. It's like a 3/4, I think. The reason that I like this card more is that the blue-green Xeon aggro deck is starting to come up in popularity at the time of recording this video, and they have the token, the 1 health token. This guy is fantastic at dealing with that because it just fizzles, it just goes away. And so I'm choosing this one more because it's a 4/4. So my same logic before, I put the duo under it or I put the Saluda Mercury under it. It's 6 health. I guarantee a blocker, but also it can remove the tokens, which I think is very important. And in the mirror match, it's 1 attack bigger, which does matter because
Definitely.
of course it trades with Ale Strike. I'm playing 3 Ale Strikes in this deck just for room, and also against an aggro deck, Ale Strike is nice, but he's still level 5, and I don't want to have too many level 5s. So I'm kind of diversifying my 5 costs when I'm doing something like this, which is the whole point of that. Ale Strike is, of course, very good when you put Mercury or Duo under it because it goes to that 6 health threshold, and his effect is simply when paired. It does not have to be anything other than a level 4 or higher pilot, which it turns out both of these are level 4. So
Pretty
works
good.
out pretty well. All right. So that's the blocker lineup, but there are two more white cards that I haven't talked about yet. Like I said, you have to take into account the fact that you are going to play against more than just an aggro deck. You can't just build your deck entirely for aggro. So I have two cards in this deck that are more value oriented, and they're meant for things like the slower matchups, the mirror match, and the blue white match. And that's two copies of Aerial Rebuild. So this pairs with Saluda Mercury, which is nice, but its effect is simply win paired. So you could put a hero or a duo under this and still get that win paired. It's a 6/5, 5/4. When you pair it, you choose a command card that is level 5 or lower in your trash and add it to your hand. Okay? So this allows me to get high value later in the game. I get to pick whatever I need. And because I'm playing something like this, I'm playing a specific lineup of command cards to give me access to pretty much anything I would want in a game, with the exception of what I want to test out is a command that's also a pilot. But the problem is there's no synergy for attacking that I found that matters. So
Yeah,
I kind of stay away from that.
there's not too many good options
So
currently, but there will be better
yeah.
options in the future.
Yep. And it should be noted that this can grab a command card of any color. So it can
Mhm.
grab a green command card if in the future we actually get green command cards that matter.
Yep.
So you play 4 Overflowing Affection as your obvious command card choice, right? In your aggro matches, you're going to discard things like this Aerial. You're going to discard your higher cost cards. In your not aggro matches, you're going to discard things like Zwart or extra copies of bases, things like that. Your trap card, 2 Unforeseen Incident. So this card is it's a level 3, 1 cost. It's got burst, you use its main effect, and it has a main or an action. It shoots one enemy unit and it gets -3 attack for the turn. So it's a full turn if it pops off your life. The cool thing about this is the interaction that this has with Red Blue's combo. So Red Blue's combo is to play Unicorn Destroy mode and put Mirada under it. And then it gets it's a dual attack first strike. It's the most obnoxious thing. It clears your board and there's nothing you can do about it. But if you have this card, when they swing on one of your big dudes, you unforeseen incident, you shrink its attack down so it doesn't kill your big dude, and then their guy's going to take the damage back and most likely die as a result of it.
Yep.
And so you just hard counter their combo. In the early game, this can help you keep a blocker alive. In the late game, this can fade a damage. When your opponent attacks you with something, in that very late game, they're probably swinging exactly 6 on your base so they can kill you with something else. You can shrink their guy down so your base doesn't die, and now they have to waste another attack on it. If that other attacker's a 2 attack, now your base lives for another turn as well. So unforeseen
Yep.
incident matters. It comes up a lot when you draw this card, and that one extra energy that it costs, the Salute of Mercury gives it back to you. So it's easy to set this up in the late game, even if you're playing on curve.
Yeah, I will say in the mirror
And
match too,
again,
the Death Scythe has first strike when it's first paired. So
right,
if you have, let's say you have like a rest moded Wing Gundam, and they swing their first strike Death Scythe into it, you can reduce it to not only keep your Gundam alive, but then, like you said, deal the damage back, which could kill the card. So you get a lot of value out
yeah,
of that specific card.
you really do. Yeah, I'll talk about Red Blue a lot because I've got trauma from it now. That's about all that we test into. It feels like, but
That's just my favorite deck. So I play the deck a lot, and so
yeah.
Sublet has been my like. I'm like, oh, I want to test this card. All right, let's play. Oh, I want to test this card. All right, let's play. So I do play a lot of red blue.
And then the last command card I play 4 of, and it is Striker Pack. So Striker Pack is a really cool card. It's 4 level 2 cost. And what it does is it's got an activate main. You play it if you don't have a token on board, specifically an Earth Alliance token, but it's the only token you play anyway. If you don't have one of the Striker Pack tokens on your board, then you either play a 2/4 blocker or a 4/2 blocker. Okay, so these are more copies of Lif. They're 1 turn later, but that's okay. On that turn, you were supposed to play Lif anyway. And then it's got a burst effect. When you burst it, if you don't have one of those tokens on your board, you get a 3/3 blocker. That matters an incredible amount because it gives you another body your opponent was not accounting for, so they can lose the game as a result of that on the crackback, or it just gives you another blocker off of your life, so it's value from your life. You'll be blocking with these normally anyway. What I like to do is make this a 2-4, and then it usually trades really favorably, just like a lift would. But if your opponent and you are in a top decking war, a 4-2 sometimes matters more because it will fully trade with a bigger card.
Yep.
This card is command card too, which means that you can get it back with Aerial. So Aerial lets me get back Cycle, it lets me get back Removal, and it lets me get back a unit. So seems fairly decent overall. And these are not cards that you hate drawing, except multiple copies of Overflowing Affection. This card can kind of get a little bit sticky. You don't mind drawing Unforeseen Incidents, though, and you don't mind drawing Striker Packs because, again, these are units. You can just play them. They work like units, except
Yep.
units that play themselves from your life.
Yeah, they're also really low cost. I mean, as a level two, it's not uncommon for you to be able to like drop a Wing Gundam and a striker pack. So being able to establish like two bodies, one of which is a blocker and one of which is a boss monster. And when I say Wing Gundam, I mean like the medium sized one. It's a lot. And one thing, you're also playing like 16 triggers, which that is not an insignificant amount of triggers. I mean, you're more than likely going to have one or two in every single game you play, which is also like an advantage in deck building as well.
It is, and this game does not punish attackers. So in some card games, like One Piece or like Dragon Ball for the Bandai players out there, your attacking is punished because the life comes to hand. By being aggressive, you are building your opponent's resources, and your opponent can choose not to attack you, thus not building your resources. And you can lose to a big swing as a result of that. Gundam has no such mechanic. You are not punished for attacking generally. So by playing these triggers, I can gain resources from my opponent attacking, and I can punish them attacking. So more triggers is not a bad thing if you can also justify playing them when you draw them, right? I don't want cards that are only good if they're a life trigger because at this moment, I have no life manipulation. I can't do anything to put this good trigger on the top of my life, right? So I want cards that as triggers are amazing and not as triggers are amazing, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of the point there. All right. Then we get into the green cards. You've got 4 bird mode. I'm gonna put those up here because there's some glare right here from the window. Yeah, 4 bird mode. This card is a fine thing to play when you're going first. Don't ever burn your resource to play this card. I've seen that sometimes where people will have the extra resource and then 2 regular resources, and they'll
Mhm.
tap 3, removing their resource to play this to get that resource back. Why? Why did you do? You're a
Yeah.
ramp deck. You want extra energy. You don't want the body on the board. It simply doesn't matter unless you're about to die and you have to pay 3 for
Yeah, I
this
was
to
gonna
get the
say.
EX resource, put the hero under it, and then you're on level 4 anyway because that's how hero works. So
Yeah.
I see no reason to do that.
You do it when you're in the worst spot, which is your opponent just flooded you with one drops and they're already like swinging into your shield. Like you shouldn't do it generally. You only do it when you're in a really bad spot.
This is not going to save you from that.
It's not, but it is better to trade the resource for a life in that scenario because you're going to attack. It's not going to save you. I agree. It is. I'm already losing the game. I have to try to stop the bleeding somehow. But you're right. In general, you don't want to do that.
You're dead anyway at that point.
Yeah.
All right, so that's some of our ramp. The rest of our ramp is in our boss monsters. So Ariel is also a boss monster. Ailstrike you could kind of argue is a boss monster, but the green boss monsters, these are boss monsters. All
Yeah.
right, we have 4 of the medium wing, right? Our starter deck, beta set. We've known about this card for a long time. Swing on active mode, level 5 or lower, I think it is. Level 4 or lower, excuse me. Level 4 or lower, swing on active mode, breach 5, so it clears bases. It's a 7/7 when you put hero on it. This card is great. This card is great because if you're playing against an aggro deck, it kind of will ignore it. because it's just so big and you just eke out so much value over the turn. This plus a blocker is just so incredible when your aggro opponent has not drawn three show of resolves. So like this card just feels like it has to be a four of. When it comes to other matchups, it's still amazing, right? You play against a white blue, or you play against a green white deck that are using the white base that untaps their blockers. Well, this punishes that. It uses I said the white base. I'm talking about the actual white color base, but there's also the blue card called white base. Thanks, Bandai.
Talking about
This also
Archangel.
clears that. Huh?
You're
Archangel,
talking
sure. And
Archangel.
then you can swing on the white base token with your guy and then kill the white base. And so he's just got a lot of value. I really don't need to explain how good that card is.
Yep.
Then we have Dread Scythe. Dread Scythe at 4. This could be
Sir, that
reduced
is
if there's
Death
anything you
Scythe.
want to be cut.
His name is Death
I said
Scythe.
Death Scythe.
You said
Did I
Dread
say
Scythe.
Death Scythe or Dread Scythe?
His name is
Interesting.
Death Scythe.
His name is Death Scythe. Yeah. All right. Look. I watched Wing Gundam so long ago. Okay. And you're not going to spend the time reading these things' names. Have you read that? This is actually Gundam Death Scythe XXXG-010 or
Yeah,
D.
dude.
Hard to
That's
tell because one of the zeros has a line through it and the other one doesn't.
it's hard, bro.
So you're not. I'm just not, man. This is Gundam dude that pairs with Duo. Okay.
Yep.
So this card is very good. It pairs with any operator meteor to get its effect. Duo is of course the best one because it also gives it rush. But pairing with hero still gets your effect. When you pair with it, you get a rested resource, not an EX resource, but an actual resource. So you hard ramp yourself with this, and you gain first strike. So Death Scythe plus Duo is just ramp and removal, which is pretty good. It becomes a 6/6 as well, which is a little bit difficult to remove without your opponent answering with a boss monster and a pilot as well, usually. You could reduce the number of these down to 3 if you wanted to, but I find that it works really well because it's a level 6. The Aerial's also a level 6. This guy's a level 6 so that they work with the final boss monster, which is, of course, Wing Gundam Zero. Um, Zero is just if your opponent misplays. If you're playing against an aggro deck and your opponent just misplays, they don't count your resources, and they slam a bunch of dudes on the board. You play Zero. You go 1 for 5, 1 for 4, 1 for 3. Even this, it's
Yeah. Man,
so powerful.
I will say
And
sometimes it's not even a misplay. You're just when you're playing against the green white deck, you're in this position of like I you just kind of have to play the game of like, man, I win next turn if I play these two bodies. And those two bodies don't necessarily lose you the game if you lose them, but you have to bait the green player into even playing the zero. So like it's this weird game of chicken between the wing zero and the aggro deck of like, I want you to play your card for the least amount of value. How do I make you do it? So it's this weird game of chicken that I find myself in pretty frequently.
absolutely, and what I was getting to with 3 copies of this card is it's not the first one that wins you the game.
It's the
It's the
second one.
second one, right? We
Hmm.
have this thing that we say a few times, and it's Siege Rhino. The
Yep.
first Siege Rhino doesn't win you the game. It's the second Siege
The
Rhino that
second
wins you the
siege right
game.
now. Shout out any Magic
Magic the
player from
Gathering.
like 2011 is like having PTSD and he's like, oh my God, he's so right. I used to hate that card. It is really like, it's really that. By the time the second one hits the board, you're like, the first one retakes control of the game and the second one solidifies it. So seeing back to back wing zeros feels really good for you and really bad for your opponent.
You play the first one, your opponent's like, well, now I just lost my board. I've got to play every card from my hand to win this game as soon as possible.
Hmm.
And he's got a second one. Oh, darn.
Yep.
So that's the deck. Yeah, you got any?
That's it. Okay, no. So I guess the only question is, with like less duos in your deck, less ability to like rush with the death scythe, how do you feel in maybe the mirror or the blue white? I know something like Gundam Aerial can help you maintain advantage in that, but how does this generally feel against the slower decks? Because I can attest that when playing, we tested a ton of red blue, a ton of blue green, a little bit of Xeon. So against the aggro decks, this is super solid. The We call it a conga line of blockers. So playing like Elfrich into
Uh,
Striker Pack,
I
in
would say.
yeah,
On the line, sure, the blockers is not the word we use.
right, yeah, yeah. No, we call it no, we say blockers. Anyway, yes. Anyway, so how would this do against maybe some of the slower matchups? Because I know like Duo ends up being one of the best cards against blue white because you getting the first strike clears something for free, and then they can't reduce its power with something like unforeseen incident or why am I forgetting Kira Yamato?
Yeah, and that does remind me. You actually mentioned earlier
I
unforeseen
know I was
incident on
wrong.
the
Yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Yeah.
Right. So honestly, in the mirror match, this probably isn't the best build, right?
Okay.
You build your deck for a full tournament. You don't build your deck for one match. And this deck is meant to kind of bridge the gap between being able to contest in the mirror match and being able to handle the aggro decks. The best version of this in a mirror match is one that has a lot more top end, and you're just going to lose to an aggro deck if you build it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the mirror match, is this the best version of green white for the mirror match? No, I don't think that it is. But when it comes to a tournament, a full tournament where you'll play some green white and you'll play some aggro, I think that this is a pretty good build for that. And blue white as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have one less copy of duo, but I don't think that that's that big of a deal, because your deck is just a little bit more minion based anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you do still have bodies that you can play, and those matches are grindy. They're like I'll swing once, I'll swing once. One swing that flips this card from your life can shift the entire matchup just because you got one extra body out of that attack.
No, for
So
sure.
ultimately, I think that, and then you have recursion like the Gundam Aerial, which just is a plus. There are not many pluses in the game, and when you come against a value matchup, a plus is huge, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think all the pluses are generally in combat. So right now effects at plus are like they feel really good. So like anytime you hit like a strong trigger, that's a plus or something like show of resolve. Like plus ones right now are huge because all the pluses are in combat currently.
Yep. I will remark on the search card. There's a green search card. You look at the top five for either a pilot or a dude from Operation Meteor. I don't like that card because it's a level five. By the time you're able to play it in the aggro match, it's probably over. You're so dependent on your early game in that aggro match. And then in the mirror match, yeah, it's very good, and you can even get it back with the Gundam Aerial. So if you wanted, you could perhaps like exchange a copy of Overflowing, or you could exchange one of these duos, or you can exchange an unforeseen incident. But I feel like you're going to impact your consistency negatively, even though you're adding a consistency card in that case.
Yeah.
But it is still an option that people can consider.
All right. Any final comments?
Just test it out. Just try it out. Take this deck, sit down against red blue, laugh at them when they can't Amuro your blocker because it has 6 health, and then try not to get too mad when you draw all of your green cards and no blockers because that will happen a lot.
That
Test
does
it out
happen.
against the wing matchup. Test it out against blue. Just test it out and see what you like. This is the game's still very new. This is just kind of what I like to play, but I know everybody has their own play style. Maybe you prefer Kira over Saluda because the ability to attack with these cards matters. That's fine. That's completely fine. Ultimately, just test stuff out. Have fun.
Definitely. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, feel free. I will be answering questions in the comments. More Gundam shit. Gundam content is what I should say is soon to come. Everyone, thanks for watching and have a good one.
Sir, don't do it.